Jamie Dornan's hidden weakness, the truth behind his connection to Dakota Johnson. The ignore one names. There are people whose faces seem open books, and then there are those whose expressions are palimpsest layers of meaning written over, erased, rewritten, yet never fully gone. Jamie Dornan belonged to the second kind. The world knew his smile, his posture, the careful calm of a man who had learned how to stand under light without flinching. But behind that composure, there lived something quieter, something unresolved. An echo, not sharp enough to wound, yet persistent enough to be felt in stillness. It was visible only if one knew how to look. Not in interview, not in rehearsed answering, but in the space between gestures, the slight delay before laughter, the distant gaze when applause faded. The way his eyes sometimes lingered as though listening to a question no one else could hear. This act had no obvious cause. His life, from the outside, appeared whole anchored by responsibility, commitment, and an identity carefully built over years. Yet wholeness does not guarantee fulfillment, and stability does not silence a longing. Sometimes, it merely teaches longing how to whisper, "Pun." The fiction that felt too real. When Jamie first shared the screen with Dakota Johnson, the connection was designed crafted by scripts, guided by directors, supported by lighting and music. It was meant to be intense, provocative, charged. The audience expected sparks, and sparks were delivered. But beneath the choreography of emotion, something unexpected emerged, a resonance neither of them had anticipated. Dakota carried herself with an ease that defied performance. She listened with her whole body, as though every word mattered, even the ones left unsaid. The presence did not demand attention, it invited it. For Jamie, accustomed to control, to discipline, to knowing where to place his hands and how to shape his voice, this was unsettling. In scenes where silence spoke louder than dialogue, he felt exposed. Not because of the camera, but because of the stillness she allowed. She did not rush to fill space. She let moments breathe. And in that breathing space, Jamie became aware of his own interior noise, the thoughts, the questions, the unarticulated ones that had long been kept orderly and quiet. Their characters were written to collide, to provoke, to unravel each other. Yet the true tension existed elsewhere, in the subtle mirroring of two people who, without trying, reflected something back to one another. It was not romance in its conventional form. It was recognition. 3. Recognition as vulnerability. Recognition can be dangerous. It bypasses defenses. It does not ask permission. Jamie recognized in the coral freedom he had set aside. Not a reckless freedom, but an emotional one, the courage to remain open, even when openness complicates things. She seemed unafraid of contradiction, of uncertainty, of not having everything neatly resolved. Watching her, he felt the weight of his own carefully maintained equilibrium. His hidden weakness was not desire, nor temptation, nor dissatisfaction with his life. It was the realization that there were parts of himself he had chosen not to explore, not because they were forbidden, but because they were inconvenient. Parts that asked uncomfortable questions. What if stability is not the same as contentment? What if longing does not disappear simply because it has nowhere to go? One said, these questions stay buried beneath professionalism. They surface only in fleeting glances, in shared laughter that carried an undertone of something else, in the way that conversations sometimes drifted toward topics that never reached conclusion. Neither of them named it. Naming would have made it real. And reality, unlike fiction, demands decisions. 4. The space between roles. When filming paused, when cameras stopped rolling and scripts were set aside, the connection did not vanish. It changed shape. In the quiet of downtime, Jamie found himself reflecting more than he expected. He noticed how often he had trained himself to be sufficient for others while remaining insufficient for himself. How easily he had accepted the role of the dependable one, the grounded one, the man who did not waver. Dakota, in contrast, seemed comfortable with ambiguity. She did not rush to define what something meant. She allowed meaning to evolve. This difference fascinated Jamie, not because he wanted to become her, but because he wondered what it might feel like to loosen his grip, just slightly. Their conversations, imagined or real, remembered or reconstructed, hovered at the edge of significance. They spoke of work, of art, of the strange dissonance between public perception and private truth. Sometimes they laughed at the absurdity of fame, sometimes they sat quietly, letting the moment pass, without commentary. In those moments, Jamie felt seen in a way that unsettled him. Not admired. not desired. Simply seen. Fee. Longing without destination. Longing does not always point toward a person. Sometimes it points inward. Jamie's longing, awakened but not created by this connection, had no clear destination. It could not be acted upon, nor did it seek fulfillment in the traditional sense. It was a yearning for integration, for the ability to hold both strength and softness without conflict. He realized that what he felt was not about crossing boundaries or rewriting his life. It was about acknowledging the cost of silence. About recognizing that some needs remain unmet not because they are wrong, but because they have never been given language. The ache in his eyes was the trace of that realization. 5. The echo that remains. When the project ended, as all projects do, the world moved on. New roles arrived. New narratives replaced old ones. The public's attention shifted, as it always does. But emotional echoes do not obey timelines. For Jamie, the connection became a quiet reference upon the reminder of something glimpsed, but not pursued. It did not haunt him, it informed him. It taught him that vulnerability does not require action to be valid. That awareness alone can reshape the way a person inhabits their own life. He carried forward a gentler understanding of himself. A recognition that strength need not exclude tenderness. That control need not erase curiosity. That longing, even when it finds no solace elsewhere, can still serve a purpose. 7. The truth beneath the fiction. The truth behind Jamie Dornan's hidden weakness was never a secret affair or an unspoken love story. It was something far more universal and far more human. It was the moment when fiction brushed against reality and revealed a fault line, not one that threatened collapse, but one that allowed light to enter. Dakota Johnson, in this imagined telling, was not the object of his longing but the catalyst for his awareness. A mirror held at just the right angle. A presence that asked nothing yet revealed my in. And so the ache in his eyes remained not as sorrow, but as a depth. A reminder that even the most composed lives contain unanswered questions, and that sometimes the most profound connections are the ones that change us without ever asking to be kept.